best on it. Now we the best on it. Too many bags on it. Too many girls on it. Now we the flex on it. Too many women.
Smell of intelligence. Today we're gonna be rocking out of Star Logic, a collection of Oasis. I'm sitting on the dress. It's episode 9. It's alright. You
get to money, go police. Tonight we gonna unleash. Smoking on the low, counting on the low, baby, I'm low.
know?
They try to put the X on it, bring out the best on it. Now we're the best on it. Too many bags on it. Too many girls on it. I'm gonna flex on it. Yeah, I just want to get life perfect.
All right. So today, this is episode 9 of Melanin Intelligence. I'm Suleiman Idris. We don't own the rights to this music. We just rocking with us and it, And today's lecture is on political witchcraft. Corporate military elite sorcery as black population manipulation. And, I just want to say before we start off, this dude, Lil Nas X, or whatever he called himself, I just call him Lil. This Lil, he done, which means imp, right? This imp done, went and got, augmented as done got memory implants. And I just want to say, we, the people, we got to stop co-signing stupidness. When this dude made a song that was pseudo country and it won't really country, and then people said it ain't country, we should have said, no, it's not country. We should have said it's not hip hop too. And we should have said it's not smart and it's not good music. And we shouldn't have had our kids line dancing to fake country music. And then he come out the closet and we like, all right, well, everybody's everything. Desire is a spectrum, which it is, Beyond that, now this dude, the Breakfast Club has reported that this dude done went and got breast implants. Now, my question is, now that he's like far, far, far left, as opposed to the left that you invite home for dinner, how you gonna take that weird shit back from your kids? And, simple fact is, dumb shit lead to fuck shit lead to weird shit. You done Trojan horsed it into your homes. And now your kid's gonna look at you crazy if you be like, don't play Lil Nas X because he got breast and you was line dancing with him when he was neither Nas nor X. Nas means mankind, humankind in Arabic. It's the last chapter in the Quran. X, Malcolm X is the arc representation of black manhood in the face of white supremacy. So you're going to let this man take the ultimate articulations of manhood and denature them. And then force feed it to people who don't even think it's good country music. Because we came up on Johnny Cash. Bruh, I'm gonna leave it at that because we at Melon Intelligence we talk about timeless principles, but there's something illustrated in that. And we'll go into that at another time. We ain't here to talk about gender or transition or morphology or dysmorphology, self-mutilation in the name of identity politics, whatever. All the craziness they try to make sanity these days. But, we're going to get back to that or not, actually. I don't think I'm going to mention it again, Yeah, so we won't even get back to that. I mean, not that dude. We ain't even going to mention that dude again, yo. What really bears commentary in this day of ours, in this time of ours, in this hour of ours? What do we really need to be discussing in order to move us forward? Is it that? If we discussing it, we need to be discussing how to disanchor it out of our children's psyches in the wake of having pop culture it force it down our throats. But like I said, you got to have something. You got to build on something to have that conversation. So I'm gonna give us something to build on first. Or there are other things to be built upon. You ain't even got to take it as me giving it to you. I'm just here with it. I'm with it. With it. On political witchcraft, corporate military elite sorcery as black population manipulation. And so this is a chapter from the Star Logic collection. Star Logic, a collection of poesis. It's on my book. You can order it on Amazon. It's volume 2 of my Times of the Sign series, just dealing with, just dealing with the depths of black social interaction in the Western Hemisphere and on how to maximize our current political, economic, and social prowess into its grandest possibilities. The term star logic comes from the Browder Files chapter, A Brief History of Astrology. This chapter discusses the zodiacal significance of many holidays, political rituals, and symbols such as voting, the 4th of July, and the number 13. A later conversation about presidents and statesmen who died on the 4th of July further cemented my view of certain aspects of statecraft as occult practice that I termed political witchcraft. I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Russell Thornton, who co-authored The Year the Stars Fell after a lecture in 2013. I asked him about what I termed political cannibalism, that is the slaughter of natives, then enshrining states, cities, and counties in their names. For instance, how many Lakota live in Dakota? Or Manhattans in Manhattan? Russell told me that according to Lakota practice, political cannibalism, as I called it, was a particularly malefic act that actually stole the soul of a person or people by slaying them and taking their names and wearing their emblems in addition to occupying their lands. These practices of death and displacement, along with the mass sacrifice of slaves and natives, cultivate the infernal elements of American statecraft. I was forced to wonder, what are these former and current corporate military elites gaining by doing these horrific things? And furthermore, what are they gaining by operating at these specific times? Nat Turner's revolt, the Haitian Revolution, Nat Turner's revolt and the Haitian Revolution began August 14th and 21st, respectively. There were slave rebellions attempted by Gabriel Prosser, originally scheduled for August 30th, 1800, and called for by Henry Highland Garnet on August 22nd, 1843. There were deaths that occurred in this same month also, we call Black August. W.E.B. Du Bois died on August 27th, 1963, and Marcus Garvey was born August 17th, 1887. Around the same auspicious times, Marcus Garvey's organization, the UNIA, was formed in August 1914. That's just to say, August clusters a lot of Black movements begin in and around August for various reasons. August 14th, 2017 was the final day of the Perseid meteor shower, while the Cygni meteor shower began on August 17th, ending on August 25th. So two very, very active meteor showers happened in August. Auspiciously, in 2017, August 17th was also the weekend of a grand solar, August 14th was also the weekend of a grand solar eclipse. Non-coincidentally, it was also the same weekend of the now infamous mass white nationalist demonstration in Charlottesville, Virginia, when thousands of white supremacists, some carrying Klan crosses, openly demonstrated in the streets, wreaking havoc, wearing regalia and matching khaki suits, carrying torches through the night, and mowing one woman down with the car. Vehicular homicide. They could have won more the car out there, bro. In response to this demonstration, leftists staged the first of dozens of Confederate monument desecrations and topplings, beginning August 24th, 2017, in my hometown, Durham, North Carolina. Since then, on the anniversary of the monument toppling, progressives attempt to take similar action all over the country. In light of the Browder files, it was no coincidence to me that whatever hidden hand was lighting the tiki torches planned the white supremacist protest on the anniversaries of the Haitian Revolution and Nat Turner's revolt. This was done in part to divert the powers of astrological convergence that these anniversaries, in concert with Black August 2017 solar eclipse and meteor showers, would have had on the psychosocial spectrum of Western Blacks. I'm going to read that again. It was obvious to me that whatever hidden hand was lighting the tiki torches planned the white supremacist protest of August 14th, 2017, in part to divert the powers of astrological convergence that these anniversaries, in concert with Black August 2017's solar eclipse and meteor showers, would have had on the psychosocial spectrum of Western Blacks, be it conscious or supraconscious. On the night of August 25th, 2020, on the tail and front cusps of the Perseid and Cygni meteor showers, again, meaning one meteor shower ending in the constellation Perseus, the flying horse, and then you have another meteor shower beginning in the constellation Cygnus, the swan. August 25th, 2020, on the tail and front cusps of the Cygni and Perseid meteor showers, 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse, a self-styled militiaman right-winger, shot two protesters with an AR-15 at a Black Lives Matter rally in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Rittenhouse was allowed to traipse past officers with a gesture and a nod after laying down two men with a long gun. We all watched in disbelief and dismay on social media as police seemingly ignored Kyle's raised hands as he walked by until he dropped them and continued on his way. Once again, on the auspicious eves of ancestral revolutionary efforts and victories, American Blacks were fed stories of victimhood and led in ineffectual protest by whites. Many left off meditation on ancestral struggle in lieu of manufactured rally and vandalism. Right-wing supremacists and left liberal distractivists once again diverted collective conscious, psychologically manipulating our civilization and discontents. On both ends, again, right-wing supremacists and left liberal distractivists once again diverted collective consciousness, psychosocially manipulating our civilization and our discontents. Counterintelligence programmers don't have to worry about what you think if they've already surveyed your horizon, initiated a scenario for you, and have measures in place. All the same, as far as planning goes, there's no way to operate against intuitive adaptability of Orun epigenetic activated ancestral or celestian intelligence. Thus, the corporate military elite's game is to prevent star logic activation via population management programs in the long run, utilizing distractivist sleight of hand and white supremacist spectacle in the short run. In essence, if you look at the shiny thing, you don't think about the deep thing, at least not at the critical moment. Diabolical astrological dialectics and redirection are a large part of corporate military elites' political witchcraft during Black August and other times regarding our nation in the Western Hemisphere. Like, we're focusing on Black August right now, but we're going to have a conversation about what goes on in January according to these principles also. You know, Black August has a particular Durham-centric connotation. Going back to that summer day in Durham, August 14th, 2017, in light of the solar eclipse, Nat Turner and Haiti's anniversary, the meteor showers in Charlottesville rally, I immediately drew a Confederate flag and set it on fire with my homie outside our apartments. I did this in commemoration of Nat Turner, Haitian revolutionaries, Harriet Tubman, slave rebels, Orun Civil War veterans setting fire to plantations. I was conscious then that if white supremacist interests were orchestrating ceremonial demonstrations and riotous distractivisms on the left and the right to divert Orun radical potential, then Orun political ritual, by comparison, is formulaically, righteously, exponentially all the more magnified in power because by just cause in purpose, impact, and aftermath. Read that again. I was conscious that if white supremacist interests were orchestrating ceremonial demonstrations and riotous distractivisms on the left and the right to divert Orun radical potential, then Orun political ritual, by comparison, is formulaically, righteously, exponentially all the more magnified in power by just cause in purpose, impact, and aftermath. In subversion of this principle, most, if not all, American protest movements and media events, at least since the 2017 solar eclipse, happening in and around Black August, be they white supremacist protests, leftist statue topplings, iconic tragedies, or electoral posturing, are misdirections and sleight of hand meant to direct ADOS, American descendants of slavery's attention from possible Orun superconscious epigenetic ancestral intelligence activation. So they don't want you to see your real power. So every time celestial convergence occurs between the two pillars, they automatically put something in play so that Black people won't be thinking about the things that would empower them versus them projecting images of our victimhood onto us by committing political, ceremonial distraction and ritual, even sacrifice. Like Kyle Rittenhouse, it was a Black Lives Matter protest, 2 people. He just escaped. Now we ain't talking about the police brutality. We talking about this dude get to just bang. You looking at August 17th, you know, they had the Charlottesville protest on the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution. So we looking at them, we thinking about them instead of thinking about them flexing instead of thinking about us winning. And then what do? There, somebody get mowed down. A white woman. And then January 6th, we celebrate and flip in Georgia. What happens? White supremacist political spectacle, sacrifice of a white woman. But, and so, these are just correlations. This name of this article is on political witchcraft. Corporate military elite sorcery is Black population management and manipulation, But, that's just to say, we have to understand political violence as part of an arc, a continuum, versus seeing it episodically as just things that happen. In subversion of this principle, most, if not all, American protest movements and media events, at least since 2017 solar eclipse, occurring in and around Black August, be they white supremacist protests, leftist statue topplings, iconic tragedies, Mr. Chat, or electoral posturing or misdirection, sleight of hand meant to divert ADOS attention from possible Orun superconscious epigenetic ancestral intelligence activation. Turning Franz Fanon's psychoanalytic lens to Orun, we can see the siphoning and redirection of ADOS nonviolent revolutionary potentia away from community self-empowerment ideals towards focus on white supremacist spectacles such as the Charlottesville protest and Rittenhouse's 2020 shooting, and now the Capitol spectacle. Distractivist leftist toppling of Confederate monuments directs angst towards bought and paid for properties. So they don't care if you pull down a statue, they done bought and paid for that. As a matter of fact, what them people get from UNC, they got like $5 million from UNC after pulling down the statue. And then UNC, like the government, like, you got to get that back. They're like, oh, we spent that, we ain't got it no more. Distractivist leftist iconoclastic topplings of Confederate monuments directs angst towards bought and paid for properties. And the thing that's so crazy about it is everybody talk about the Confederate monument topplings now. If we don't get careful, if we don't be careful as Black people, they're going to make it about the time when they destroyed their own property versus the time when we forged our own governments. The political posturing of the president and Congress trickled down to support of either side of the always destructive, sometimes deathly, riotous theater. A plethora of music festivals and sports events and games are always planned in and around these auspicious stellar occasions. And I published this book on July 7th of 2019. No, July 7th of 2020. And so I actually prefigured so much of what happened in January that it's insane. But, non nobis domine non nobis, sed nomine tua gloria. Not my name, Lord, O thine, to your name be all the glory. Um, From the wretched of the earth, we can see and understand the many ways that colonizers reroute native revolutionary energies from the 1950s until now. Benighted and exacerbated by global corporate military elite diabolique planning and design, we must keep in mind that contemporary black on black violence in large part is psychotraumatic aggressions meant for society's grand oppressors taking out on your own people. I'm not saying you should go attacking white people, but this is what it is in your psyche. There was very little or negligible recorded lethal violence recorded amongst slaves. There was very little lethal violence recorded amongst slaves. During slavery until emancipation, black social violence was directed outward against whites, property, slave owners, and colonialists. Certain maroon practices could be the exception to this understanding. These liberating human impulses and will to freedom had and have celestial spurs and correspondences. The Black August slave revolts took place when Mars, leading stately Jupiter and Saturn in Sagittarius, transitioning between Orion and Perseus constellation at sunrise, mythologically carrying Raz Al Ghul, the specter's head, is performing a stellar coup d'etat on Medusa. Let me read it again. The Black August slave revolts took place with Mars leading stately Jupiter and Saturn in Sagittarius, transitioning between Orion and Perseus constellation at sunrise, mythologically carrying Raz Al Ghul's star, the specter's head, performing a stellar coup d'etat on Medusa. This celestial dynamism symbolized slave masters and corporate military elites' impending massacre and overthrow. In the immortal words of O-Rune warriors, sic semper evelo mortem tyrannus, which means, thus always I bring death to tyrants. Then that's a quote from Marcus Junius Brutus before he stabbed Julius Caesar. Before that, this was before it was used by John Wilkes Booth after shooting Abraham Lincoln, and was the state motto of Virginia in its shortened form sic semper tyrannis. Before John Wilkes Booth used it, it was also the motto of almost 200,000 O'Roon Civil War veterans known as the United States Colored Troops, who were active May 22nd, 1863 to October 1865. And so, all right. This celestial dynamism symbolized slave masters and corporate military elites' impending massacre and overthrow. In the immortal words of O-Rune warriors, sic semper evelo mortem tyrannus. White's greatest fear in the New World has always been slave revolt. Political witchcraft comes into play when whites, upon recognizing stellar patterns of slave revolts, undertake tortuous, sadistic, sacrificial pains to ensure that persons and environmental ingredients needed to recreate these events, if only educationally, are not remembered or replicated. Thus, what had previously been externalized impulses have to be rendered inert, repressed, or better yet, for population management, turned inward into black on black violence. Black on black violence in concert with epic amorality and of deculturalization. Black on black violence in concert with the epic amorality of deculturalization is produced by a matrix of superstructural factors beyond ADO's control that exacerbate epigenetic trauma responses into ever-escalating, prolonged, violent conflicts. The planning and design of these repressions is actually geopolitical and takes time and money and spans the globe. Under the Taliban in Afghanistan, opium production had dropped 90%. After the U.S. takeover, poppy production shot through the roof. 1 second. Bro. Come on, bro. No, thank you. Oh, excellent. Sorry about that, y'all. People is attention starved. Black on black violence in concert with the epic amorality. Black on black violence in concert with the epic amorality of deculturalization is produced by a matrix of superstructural factors beyond ADO's control that exacerbate epigenetic trauma responses into ever escalating prolonged violent conflicts. The planning and design of these repressions is actually geopolitical and takes time and money and spans the globe. Under the Taliban in Afghanistan, opium production has dropped 90%. After the US takeover, poppy production shot through the roof. The increase in opium production led to a surplus. The surplus created an enhanced black market trade. These surplus black market war on terror opiates get dumped into black communities, causing gang wars. On the other hand, legal poppy surplus initiated a culture of medical and professional overprescription, and an expanded market was created to push the war on terror legal prescription opiates. Hip-hop music was employed to market the dope because opiate use had been frowned upon during the 90s through the 2000s. Rap music can make anything stylish. After American society was allowed to degenerate from the subsequent mass addictions, an opioid crisis was declared, and corporate military elites now get to pay themselves to clean up the very mess they created domestically with the invasion of Afghanistan internationally. Police, hospitals, social services, civilian contractors, and the military all get a boost, everybody but addicts. CME Diaboliques eat off of the legal and illegal international drug trade every step of the way, from the importation to tax and wrappers to law enforcement to the immediate healthcare and long-term treatment responses. Networked with astrological considerations, and 2012's burning of 500 Qurans in Afghanistan and the war on terror's worth of human sacrifice is some serious political witchcraft. Most of us don't think that the kid stealing Percocets is a government employee, but he is, whether he knows it or not. If he decided to stop and go clean, the program that guided him out of his destructive addictive cycle would have been conceived by the same intelligences who imported the opiates to begin with. It's all internationally sinister and lends itself to Orun population management domestically. Orun School Orun School recognizes the elemental nature of manipulated black-on-black violences and takes as our responsibility the negotiations of peace amongst warring nations and tribes called the different houses of Orun by identifying and unifying with black fraternal orders around the common cause of legitimization for the founding of Orun State. I'm gonna read that again. Orun School recognizes the elemental nature of manipulated black-on-black violences and takes as our responsibility the negotiation of peace amongst the warring nations and sects called different houses of Orun by identifying and unifying with black fraternal orders around the common cause of legitimization for the founding of Orun State. Orun School sublimates ADOS will to freedom and counteracts political witchcraft by identification and institutionalization of Orun political ritual amongst other modes, mobilizing prophetic biblical Afro-Islamic literary formulae in primary statecraft for national recognition in earth as it is in heaven. Knowledge is power. These considerations and experiences answer in part some questions that are pertinent to Orun school, including what are some aspects of political witchcraft and how does Orun party defend against it? And so that was a chapter out of my book, Star Logic, a collection of poesis. Just quickly about that book. Star Logic, Times of the Signs, Volume 2, is a poetic return to the concepts of meteor time and Orunage. Orunage like Marunage, runaway slaves, but you say Orun instead. Star Logic, Times of the Signs, Volume 2, is a poetic return to the concepts of meteor time and Orunage, mapped out in The Sunrise in the West, defined as transatlantic fugitivity and repatriation initiated by the fall of heavenly bodies. Star Logic further redefines our era in space, art, and craft using scripture, meteorics, esotericism, tones, and rhythm. This poesis explains our storied past in verse and pictograph, breathlessly bridging gaps between multiple states of being and now. All right, that's this book. That's Star Logic, second in the Times of the Sign series. Volume 1 is The Sunrise in the West. And Volume 3, which is called Dusk Orientalis, is soon to be released. You can get it, its Kindle version online, but the hard copies will come out sooner than later. I read a little bit from that in our last episode, episode 8. And, I just wanted to bring this forward because I wrote this last August. You wouldn't think I wrote it last August given what happened in January, but I wrote it last August because when you're dealing with principles, it allows you to anticipate their application in different ways, shape, forms, and fashions. And so I wasn't surprised by what happened on January 6th because I had written this on July 7th. It was first published on July 7th. So, just bringing it forward, though, just to show you the these principles are even further at play. Just looking at it in light of what happened on January 6th for a recap. We see that Haitian Independence Day is on January 1st, and so what we're saying is these people is basically cloning, Haitian timelines. And so January 6th is called Epiphany or Le Jour de Roi, the Day of the King. It's the day that represents the wise man coming to see Christ, but it has a whole nother concept in like voodoo. So in voodoo, the Day of the Kings, the three kings are seen as three powerful spirits. And so we're just talking about how Christianity in Haiti can also be used as a mask for another religious understanding and matrix of spirituality. In the same way, the political process that was going on in DC on the 6th and in Atlanta on the 6th can be used to mask a whole different process that's going on. But if you have eyes to see, the process is not masked to you. 1946. Is it 46? Hold on, let me see. Is it 46? 1946. I want to say 1946, but that's let's go. Overthrow. All right, 1946. In 1946, on January 6th, is when they began in Haiti the overthrow of President Lescaut by President Magloire and the Parti Démocratique Populaire de la Jeunesse Haitienne, the PDJPJH, was started on January 7th in Haiti after a protest on January 6th in which the Haitians overthrew an American-backed despot. And so that's just to say You know, every time these people is doing something wild and crazy, it seemed like it's something that happened that was beneficial to African Americans in the Western Hemisphere, particularly in the Haitian matrix. And so, you know, I don't know. And so I call it political witchcraft, you know, just taking astrological considerations and using them as the manipulation of population, for the manipulation of population. But there's probably another term for it somewhere else in, you know, a set of knowledge that I'm not indulged in. But yeah, so that's that. You know, hit the like button, hit the share button. I realize it's kind of heady, but that's why it's on video, so you can go back and check it out. It's also in a book, because if you read it, you can take notes, and then you can, you know, I prefer book reading to YouTube videos personally. But I realize that these YouTube videos, that other people's YouTube videos are gaining mass proliferation and maybe disseminating problematic information, or information that isn't really ordered as it should be. And so I'm just here to, you know, add some hot grand reality to the box. And so thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Once again, this is Melanin Intelligence. Like and share. Like and share. I'm Suleiman Idris. Salute.